and we have no idea where they may have settled again. One more starfall further beyond the edge, and we may run into one of their present outposts. But this isn't it. Not yet." Manning was still staring at Ryanson, but it was a curious stare. "You're pretty sure that what you've been getting out of that horseface's head is real," he said levelly. "You trust them?" Ryanson nodded. Harang was really afraid. That was real. I felt it myself. And the rest of it was real, too. I could see the whole racial memory there. And nobody could have been making that up, if you'd experienced that. "Well, I didn't," Manning said shortly. "And I don't think I trust them." He paused, and after a moment frowned. "But this direct linkage business does seem to be the best way we have of checking on them. I want you to get busy, Lee, and go after that horse's thoughts for us. Don't let him drive you out again. If he's hiding something, get in there and see what it is. Above all, don't trust him. If these things are the outsiders, they could be bluffing us." Manning stopped talking and thought a minute. He looked up under raised eyebrows at Ryanson. "And be careful, Lee. I'm counting on you." Ryanson ignored his parental gaze and turned instead to Mara. "We'll try it again tomorrow," he said. "Get in a requisition for a telepathy this afternoon. Make sure we'll have one ready to go first thing in the morning. I'll check back with you about an hour after we leave here today." She looked up at him, surprised. "Check back? Why?" "I put in a requisition myself yesterday. Wine from Cluster 2, vintage '86. I was hoping for some company." She smiled. "All right." Manning was ending the session. "Carl, be sure to get those studies of the Outsiders' artifacts together for me by tonight. And I'm going to hand back your reports to each of the rest of you. Go through them and watch for those inconsistencies you skipped over the first time. We may be able to turn up something else that doesn't check out. Go over them carefully. All the reports were sloppy jobs. You're all trying to work too fast." Ryanson rose with the rest of them, grinning as he remembered how Manning had rushed those reports. Well, that was one of the privileges of authority, delegating fault. He started for the door. "Lee, hold it a minute. I want to talk to you alone." Ryanson sat, and when all the others had gone, Manning came back and sat down opposite him. He slowly took out a cigarette and lit it. "My last pack till the next spacer makes touchdown," he said. "Sorry I can't offer you one, but I'm a fiend for the things. I know they're supposed to be non-habit forming these days, but I'm a man of many vices." Ryanson shrugged, waiting for him to come to the point. "I guess it makes me a bit more open-minded about what the members of my staff do," Manning went on. "You know, why should I crack down on drinking or smoking, for instance, when I do it myself?" "I'm glad you see it that way," Ryanson said dryly. "Why do you want me to stay?" Manning exhaled a long plume of smoke slowly, watching it through narrowed eyes. "Well, even though I'm pretty easy-going about these things, I do try to keep an eye on you. When you come right down to it, I'm responsible for every man who's with me out here." He stopped and laughed shortly. "Not that I'm as altruistic as that sounds, of course. You know me, Lee. But when you're in a position of authority, you have to face the responsibilities. You understand me?" "You have to protect your own reputation back at cluster headquarters," Ryanson said. "Well, yes, of course. You get into a pattern of thinking eventually. Sort of a fatherly feeling, I suppose. Though I've never even been on the parentage rolls back on the in-worlds. But I mean it. It happens. I get that feeling. And I'm getting a bit worried about you, Lee." Ryanson could see what was coming now. He sat further back into the chair and said, "Why?" Manning frowned with concern. "I've been noticing you with Mara lately. You seem pretty interested in her." "Is she one of those vices you were telling me about, Manning?" said Ryanson quietly. "You want to warn me to stay away from her?" Manning shook his head, a quick gesture dismissing the idea. "No, Lee, not at all. She's not that kind of a woman. And that's my point. I can see how you look at her, and you're on the wrong track. When you're out here on the edge, you don't want a wife." "What I need is some good healthy vice. Is that what you mean?" Manning sat forward. "That puts it pretty clearly. Yeah, that's about it. Lee, you're building up some strong tensions on this job, and don't think I'm not aware of it. Telepathing with that horseface is getting rough, judging from what you've told me. I think you should go get good and drunk and kick up hell tonight. And take one of the town women. They're always available. Do you good, I mean it." Ryanson stood up. "Maybe tomorrow night," he said. "Tonight I'm busy with Mara." He turned and walked toward the door. "I'd suggest you get busy with someone else," Manning said quietly behind him. "I'm really telling you this for your own good, believe it or not." Ryanson turned at the door and regarded the man coldly. "She's not interested in you, Manning," he said. He went out and shut the door calmly behind him. Manning could be irritating with his conceited posing, but his veiled threats didn't bother Ryanson. In any case, he had something else on his mind just now. He had finally remembered what it had been about the carvings over the Herlihy building in the photo that had touched a memory within him. There was a strong similarity to the carvings that he had seen through Tebron's eyes outside the Temple of Kor. The symbols of Kor, Tebron had called them, copied from the works of the Old Ones. The Outsiders. End of chapter 4.